Welcome to Kidmissing TV. I'm your host, Angelina Wilson. I sound a little better. I'm still recovering, but doing a lot better. My fever broke. Yay! This is the case of Mary Ann Schuett. Schuett. It's a stranger abduction from Kilbride, Ontario. I believe I did another case out of Kilbride, Ontario. April 27th, 1967. She was 10 years old. She was 4'6", 70 to 80 pounds, medium brown hair. She had bangs. And it was only ear length in the back, so it was very short. They described her as slightly stooped. Not sure why, since she's not an 80-year-old, but she had a red reversible jacket. The other color would be beige, a green skirt, blue sweater, blue running shoes, sneakers, in other words. She vanished on her way home from school. Kilbride School is in the northern section of the city of Burlington. Two people employed at the American Motors plant saw a man in a dark blue Renault station wagon, or a small compact-sized European model, dark blue or black in color, with a chrome section across the back. This man was at the side of the road, talking out of the window to a little girl in a red coat. And they saw in their rearview mirror the little girl got into his car. So she was seen being abducted. Now, a Renault is a French car, I believe. Or Belgian, which is kind of the same thing. And it drove straight past her house. Mary Ann was reported missing after several hours. Hers was one of the largest searches ever in Canadian history. A blue sneaker was found in the Speyside area near Highway 25 in Milton, similar in size and color to the one she was wearing. See the Speyside or Speyside, Speyside. The police composite sketch was that of a man with a thin face, approximately 40 years in age, light-rimmed glasses, so like wire-rimmed maybe, and a canvas fedora. Two days later, a similar man was seen at a picnic spot in Dundas, D-U-N-D-A-S, cleaning his car and wiping it down with a dry cloth. And he looked nervous, according to the witness. And they hadn't yet released the sketch from the American Motors workers yet. That witness's description was pretty much the same. But that report was never followed up. 23 years later, the case was reopened and that lead was followed. And the license number that apparently the woman got didn't say that, but had belonged to a dark blue Renault station wagon. And it was owned by a man with a history of, guess what? Begins with a P and ends in Ilia. Yeah. He had gone to jail in 1972 for attempted abduction of an 11-year-old girl who managed to run away. The same suspect was also investigated for alleged intimate assaults of two Ancaster girls, ages 3 and 9, between 1971 and 1978. Investigators say one of the alleged victims came forward in December 1990 to report allegations of assault against the same individual. Before any resolution of the complaints, the suspect ended his own life. Since there were insufficient grounds to lay charges in Marianne's disappearance, it could be possible that someone else was involved. However, investigators believe it was him. One person was sighted in the car, and they believe it was this man. Um, 55 years later, police and family are still searching. She hasn't been forgotten, we're still trying, said Gord Collins, retired Peel police officer. The OPP, or Ontario Provincial Police Missing Persons poster distributed after Marianne's death was distributed. Here's a quote from her poster. The child had only 400 yards to go to her home, but she never arrived. End quote. I'm going to give you quotes from some of her siblings. Just picture all of a sudden somebody in your life is gone and you don't know why, where, how. Are they dead? Are they alive? Said Steve Schuett, her brother. He was only 5 at the time. He is now 60. And he says, quote, she was very mild-mannered. It baffled us forever, he said, about the question of how Marianne ended up in the man's car. Even back then, we were told, you don't go with strangers. Their mother died last February, so she never found out in her lifetime. I'm sure she knows now. That was the big hope, giving their mother answers, but we still want to continue just so we can have closure, he said. And like I said, the retired police officer is still searching for her. They want to find her remains. Retired Detective Collins said, quote, what we're attempting to do here is identify, if we can, where Marianne was left and potentially find her. Find a DNA profile that matches her to bring some closure to the family. That's all we're after. And the police emailed the Canadian Broadcasting Company, the CBC, and said, quote, we will thoroughly investigate all tips received, end quote. Her brother said, quote, let us have access. Maybe there's something in there that will give us some information to narrow it down even more. Well, that's a good point. Because if she knew not to get in a car with a stranger, maybe she knew that person at least on the periphery. You know? I'm sorry I'm looking down a lot. And here's a quote. The lines of communication have always remained open, and we encourage the family to reach out to discuss, said Constable Steve Elms, end quote. Now I have a phone number. The RCMP Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS. That's 800-222-TIPS. I think they're on the right track. I really do. It makes perfect sense. Just a matter of finding her remains. I wonder if they looked in the area where they found the sneaker. Because I can't imagine she's too far from that area. That being said, I wanted to... I noticed when I was editing another video that I tend to look down, I tend to look over there. I'm not trying to be rude or even inappropriate. Looking at the camera for me is like looking someone in the eyes, and I don't do that well. I know now it's because I have mild autism. I can remember being in high school and being forced, to look in the eyes, and I couldn't. And it was so hard for me, and nobody seemed to understand that. You would have thought that a special ed teacher was, maybe there's something here, along with other things. But she never did. I make great effort to do it, especially at my meetings and stuff, as hard as it is, my board meetings and stuff. So I just wanted to let you guys know that if I'm sometimes looking around like I'm distracted, like I don't care, that couldn't be further from the truth. I just have a hard time looking at the camera sometimes. And if I'm looking down, I'm probably reading quotes and stuff like that. So just wanted to apologize to you for that. Not for having autism, but for what comes with it. Things like not looking at the camera, doing things like biting, and just so you understand. That was harder than I thought it would be to talk about, because I talk about it on my other channel all the time. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you Wednesday. Thank you for joining me for the first case of Fragile February. Bye, guys.